Pop the top, it's time for a video to drop, and today I'm gonna be talking about two very different reactions that I had this past weekend. As of me recording this video, it is August 22nd, 2021 at 4:53 in the morning, which means that last night was SummerSlam and the night before that was AEW Rampage, the first dance. So first off, let me go ahead and give a little bit of a shout out, if you will, to Chris Danker, aka Dankops, as I watched his CM Punk video where he was talking about the return of CM Punk to AEW and professional wrestling. And you know what? I said, hey, I have a lot of thoughts that I want to talk about as well, alongside something else that took place, as we will get into. So big shout out to Chris. But nevertheless, my thoughts on CM Punk returning to professional wrestling, man. I cannot put into words enough how much CM Punk meant to me as a kid, how much CM Punk meant to me as my wrestling fandom comes to be. Because if you guys did not know, I was such a big Jeff Hardy fan, and yes, this does make sense, hold on. I was such a big Jeff Hardy fan growing up. I had the armbands, I used to do face paint on my face, I used to get all the Jeff Hardy figures, I used to do swantons out of my bed, I used to try to do whispers in the winds on the trampoline, and it never went right, but I was a Jeff Hardy fan through and through. And then on August 28th, 2009, CM Punk defeats my favorite wrestler of all time at that point, Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy has to leave the WWE for nearly almost 8 to 7 years, I believe. Was the time until that WrestleMania when he came back with Matt. But nevertheless, he had to leave the WWE. My favorite left the company, and then I was left a favoriteless wrestler in the WWE kid. So I said, you know what? CM Punk got rid of Jeff Hardy, so I am now a CM Punk fan. He's the world champion. Why should I not be a fan of him? So I became a huge fan of CM Punk to the point where I was very much straight edge in my life for a number of years. And it was all because of CM Punk and how much I loved CM Punk. I think his promos are some of the absolute best in professional wrestling history, bar none. I think he's one of the best. He's in the top 5, at least to me anyways, and wrestling is very subjective. Nevertheless though, CM Punk meant the world to me in professional wrestling, to the point where I got super into independent wrestling through other avenues, but then I studied nothing but CM Punk independent tapes. And I do believe that CM Punk is a big reason why a lot of us got into independent professional wrestling, because when he debuted at ECW in 2006, a lot of us had no idea who he was, but we knew he was cool, and we knew we had to look him up. And when we looked him up at the library with the library card, we found all these infos and links and pictures and DVDs of Ring of Honor, and that dived a lot of us in for that little space and that little crook and nanny, if you will, of professional wrestling. So I can never thank CM Punk enough for things like that, because he was one of the first people that I ever researched and did my deep dives on. Now, fast forward to 2014 at the Royal Rumble. That was CM Punk's last day in WWE, and it was a very big shock to me the day after the Rumble when it came out that CM Punk had left the WWE and he would not be returning. And then at pretty much a screeching halt, CM Punk in pro wrestling was over. CM Punk in the WWE was over. And he was my favorite, man. He absolutely was my favorite. Y'all know my favorite professional wrestler of all time is Chris Hero. And the fact that Punk and Hero had such a big feud on the independent scene at IWA Mid-South among other independent companies, Punk always meant a lot to me, man. And when he had to leave the WWE, because obviously, as he talked about at AEW Rampage, his mental wasn't right. And it's kind of crazy, man, to think about that. Someone who loved professional wrestling that much, somebody who had that much love and passion for professional wrestling, had it just honestly killed by the World Wrestling Entertainment. And it's a sad thing to see and a sad thing to hear. But now, year after year after year after year, we all speculated, is this the year where CM Punk returns at the Royal Rumble, wins, and goes on to the main event of WrestleMania? And year after year, it never happened. Year after year, we sadly just could not find CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble and going on to face Roman Reigns or John Cena or anybody else in the main event of WrestleMania. But I never gave out on hope, man. I mean, I will say past year at the Royal Rumble, I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen, man. And then, especially when AEW became a thing a few years ago, and the first show was the first pay-per-view, was All Out at Chicago. Well, if he wasn't going to show up there, I don't think he's ever going to show up, is something that I used to say. If he didn't show up at All In before even AEW, then he's never coming back to professional wrestling. It's not going to happen. He's happy. He's happy doing what he's doing. But when there's a will, there's a way, I suppose. Because in 2021, August 20th, at the United Center, where the Chicago Bulls play, bro, AEW runs a show. AEW Rampage Friday nights. The first dance. We open the show, and oh my goodness, bro. This place, 15,000 in the United Center are just chanting at the top of their lungs, CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. And it has been rumored for months now, that CM Punk was coming to AEW. And when they announced the first dance was happening, we all knew this has to be it. And AEW on a silver platter gave it to us, man, because that static hit, and by golly, oh Molly, let me tell you, that is one of the biggest pops I think I've ever heard in professional wrestling, man. One of the absolute biggest reactions. I could feel the arena shaking, and I was here in Dayton, Ohio. I could feel it from here, bro. Myself and Brandon Does Everything, aka BDE, aka Brandon, as I like to call him, because I live with him. We were watching it downstairs, and we both, when the static hit, jumped to our feet yelling, could it be? Is it? Could it be? On our Michael Cole type beat. And then when CM Punk walked through the tunnel, we lost our minds yet again. And then CM Punk proceeded to come down to the ring, grab a microphone, and say that he's back. He is back. He's not here for commentary. He's not here to be a general manager. He is back to compete. He is back to be a professional wrestler inside of the ring. And we now know his first match back to professional wrestling is going to be at AEW All Out, where he will go one-on-one with Darby Allin, with Sting in Darby Allin's corner. And that match is going to be insane. That was one of my favorite nights in my life for professional wrestling. In professional wrestling, that is one of the craziest things I have ever witnessed. I was so happy that I watched it live, man. It was so good. And I don't think there's ever going to be a moment like that again in wrestling for a long time. It's just a moment where it felt like Christmas Eve the day before. The 19th felt like Christmas Eve. And when I woke up and AEW Rampage was about to come on, I felt so anxious, and then it happened, and it was the greatest moment in wrestling history in quite some time. And I'm very excited, man, to see CM Punk, bro, back in the ring wrestling. But for as good as I felt, man, on AEW Rampage with CM Punk coming out, we fast forward next day, which was SummerSlam, and around 9 p.m.-ish, we see the WWE 2K22 trailer, and at the end of the trailer, it says that the release date is going to be March 2022. Now, I don't know. I don't have a watch on or anything like that, but it's certainly nowhere near March right now. It is August 2021. We're almost to September. There's about 8 to 7 months before that game will drop. Now, I'm not here to nitpick or to break down the screenshots of the videos. I will leave the much better people at that, like Smack Talks, the 101, etc. Let them do that because they are masterful at that. What I want to talk about is the fact that the game's not coming out until March of 2022, because if you follow me on Twitter at Phoenix Nitro, you will know that I put out some tweets and I said some things, and well, hear me out. I was not happy at all. I was very upset, actually, because as you guys know, we here, and by we, I mean the community here that makes WWE Games content, we have been using WWE 2K19. It's no secret. We don't try to hide it usually. We've been using WWE 2K19 for now 3 years to bring you guys great content, because WWE 2K20 absolutely was horrible when it came to highlight reels, so we couldn't use it to make great content. And WWE 2K20 died on YouTube within the first month of the game being out, and only until this past year when myself, Brandon Does Everything, and Simply Better AM, and the Vibe channel, of course, as well as a couple of other people here on the community, in the community on YouTube. We brought back WWE 2K22, a great place where we could actually drop content and it would get views, because we started doing things like universe mode simulations and I put this guy into WWE, blah, 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 those type of videos. And it rose the game back up, but that does not take away from the fact that it is still WWE 2K20, a 2-year-old game. Because the last game that WWE dropped, Battlegrounds, was not a content-centric game. That was an arcade game where you can't really make good content out of Battlegrounds at all. And to top it all off, Battlegrounds died on YouTube in terms of views and whatnot within the first 2 weeks of that game being dropped, which is kind of crazy to say. So with that said, I am very, very upset that the game is not coming out till March 2022. I am very happy on one end because I hope that means that the game will be great. I hope that means GM mode, create a story, and all those features that Mr. Epilogue, that Patrick Gilmore posted on his Twitter account in May of 2020. I hope that those top requested features are in the game. I really do. But we don't know that yet. And I'm not going to speculate on if WWE 2K22 is going to be good or not because of the March 22 release date. I'm just going to give my opinion on the fact that it sucks as a WWE 2K content creator that the game's coming out in March of 2022. Because as you guys know, the later end of the year for us is our top earning months because we get new content, we get a boost in views because it's a brand new game, more people come out to check your channel, and that really hasn't happened for any of us in so long because Battlegrounds had a god-awful launch, and then WWE 2K20 obviously had one of the worst launches in video game history, and definitely one of the worst launches in WWE game history. So, with all that said, my opinion on WWE 2K22 as it stands, because I know a lot of you guys have asked, is it looks cool from what we've seen. I wish we would have seen new superstars that have never been in the game before in that trailer, but we didn't get that. But you can't pick and choose, I suppose. I really do like the Edge screenshots. And last but not least, I hate the fact that it's coming out in March of 2022 as a content creator, but on the end of a consumer, I am very, very happy that they are taking their time with it. Now, will that time really amount to anything? I don't know. However, that was my thoughts on the duality of these past 2 days for me. I know this video is mainly just me talking, but if you guys do want to see more videos like this where I break down my thoughts on a lot of different things, like this video, man. Hit that subscription if you are new. And as always and forever, take it easy though, guys. Peace!